Very cool. So we're Sewn Adaptive. We're based out of Pasadena, California, and what we do is adaptive alterations for people with disabilities, all kinds of disabilities.
In shop and mail in.
Right.
Margaret was talking about how she knows some people that are low income, and so she's wondering if maybe there's like a avenue of, she was talking about the classes that you guys are talking about holding, things like that. So she's very interested to learn more.
Yeah, we try to show on our videos as clear as possible how to do the alterations that we do, so people can do them at home if they don't want to send them in. We try to make our alterations also as, as affordable as possible, and make that a consistent and sustainable resource for everybody. But a lot of people like to do it themselves, or just the convenience of having it, being done yourself, or through your local tailor who might be comfortable with that. So we try to like really get into the materials you need and everything online. So if you already follow us, you can kind of see that in the videos. We try to cover it as clear as we can in a minute and a half that they give us. So.
And there's also several organizations like Cal Fund. There are several organizations that allow kind of like a stipend for people with disabilities for like lifestyle things. We've been in talks with them about like kind of like us being one of the people like on the vendor list, so that people, when they need, especially if somebody's like had an accident and then their entire world has changed, they can utilize those funds and not be going out of pocket to have anything they need adapted.
So what was the name of that organization or agency?
Cal Able.
Oh,
Cal Able. Thanks.
Yeah, they provide funds for things that are just improvement for quality of life. I think it's a local government organization.
The more you know, honestly.
Yeah, and there's a lot more of those out there. That's just one that we've been in contact with.
I did invite a bunch of organizations. I don't know how well it's being received that I'm putting on these meetups myself. And so I think there's a little bit of like unsurety, I guess, is just what I'm feeling. But I'm going to continue to invite them and encourage them to be part of this, because if we can get them to blast it out, you know what I mean? I did send it to Wasatch Adaptive Sports here, and they were happy to share it. So it's finding those organizations that are wanting to really collaborate, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we face that all the time. We, try to showcase what we do to as many companies as possible, and our support comes from all over the place, which is always really nice. But we really do try to get out as much as possible and show to as many organizations that we do what we do. But I totally understand what you mean about people maybe having, reservations because they're used to things being done a certain way, or, certain methods to everything, and don't like the change. So, some resistance comes from other organizations, but for the most part, we get pretty positive responses.
And the other thing, truthfully, is that the general public and the community don't always even know what adaptive means. That's a relatively new term. We have to explain our name all the time.
That's an interesting point. I haven't really thought of that, because adaptive has just been my whole life.
Right.
Like a disability was less of a word my whole life, but adaptive sure was. And so I think you just helped me understand that, like, it's just not common knowledge for everyone like it is for me.
Yeah, it's still taking me, people ask me, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, how do I concisely explain this? It's like, I don't start with adaptive because I already assume that a lot of people don't know what that means or how that relates, especially when we were at the Triumph Sports Foundation, and as adaptive as far as clothing goes. So, a lot of people did know what it was, but there were a lot of people in the community who didn't understand really what that meant for clothing. Understood the sports aspect because they're very sports oriented, but they didn't really understand how that meant as far as adaptive. So I always add like that for people with disabilities at the end, just kind of like, pulls it in a little bit, makes it a little bit more clear what we do. But I mean, it is adaptive is that tricky term because I used to have a clothing factory and we still go to the suppliers to get equipment for the machinery and things like that. But they, they are always confused about what the new business name is because they don't like adaptive doesn't mean anything to them like in the factory world. So they're always forgetting what the name of the new company is all the time. And it's interesting because it's like it's so not playing a role in the fashion industry to that extent. It's everybody would recognize factory names that have things to do with couture or suiting or manufacturing or whatever. Apparel is a big word for name factory names, and people associate that, but they don't associate with adaptive. So it's just not a common term, which if the factories aren't understanding what that means or the factory suppliers aren't, then there's no real larger resource at that level, which is the most important level as far as making it accessible to the general population, because there's a lot of designers out there trying to create a product that's hard to manufacture, partially because there's not a lot of manufacturers that are versed in that, or producers of trims and notions that are adaptive to be able to produce better ones, newer ones, different ones. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a reflection on how the industry is going. We're trying to change that. We have explored so many different angles in the work we do and have consistently changed to try to adapt to new markets and new resources within the adaptive field.
Wow, that's very educational. I think unless you're in there doing all of that, you just won't know about that. You won't know that there's that misunderstanding or lack of understanding, I guess.
Well, with also having an actual physical space and shop to have customers come in, it's become almost like a research and development lab for all kinds of disabilities and each person's specific needs. And what it's shown us is a few things, is that that the majority of the disabled community out there purchase ready to wear and they adapt to it. The amount of things out there that are created adaptive are not only limited, like if you have a collection, say at Target, there might be 5 items total that span from an adult to children in adaptive choices. So that means, as the community, you have 5 options and 5 options only. It's hard because these fashion brands who don't have the research and development opportunity like we have, they don't know what the needs are. So even when they do create something that's adaptive, it could be that they created it with one specific, disability. It could even be like one specific sample model with that disability, and not understanding that in no scenario is there ever a one size fits all in or out of the community, right? And so a lot of the stuff isn't great because it might be great in one way, like say with a wheelchair user, you might have, you might have made a great pair of jeans that's easy to pull up, that doesn't have a ton of excess around the waist, but you had pockets on the back. Well, pockets can be problematic to somebody who's seated every day, all day. It's little things like that that then make these adaptive choices not very marketable. They don't do well. And any brand is about doing well. So if they create a style, they produce a style, and it doesn't sell, there's no more of that style, period. And so we've kind of taken the approach to sort of re-engineer everything that's already out there so that the consumer can pick anything they want and we will adapt it. And then they can have anything they want.
And they don't have to wait for the brands to catch up to technology. And
Right. And our big goal is to be a added service attached to any one of these brands that you, the consumer, can go online and say, I love those jeans. I need zippers in the inseams, or I need pockets removed. And you purchase it, you do the Sewn Adaptive drop down, you ask for your adaption, it'll come straight from their fulfillment to us, we adapt, and it gets shipped straight to you.
Oh,
So it's as if you shopped online and made your choice and got what you wanted.
that's awesome.
That's the plan.
we've had a few more people join us since you were talking. I'm still learning how to do like big groups on Zoom, so sorry about the like imagery. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm saying. But
I'm seeing that I need a comb.
looks gorgeous, like Vanna White. Terrifying. So I just want to make sure we have everyone in here. Sewn Adaptive is based out of, we have someone that's in from the UK too. Mithu is here from the UK.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Sewn Adaptive is based out of Pasadena, California, if I can speak. And I met you guys last month. Seems like it's been 6 months.
Yes, it does. Wow.
How much I think about this. And I just, your guys' business, your business model, you guys are part of my daily life now. Like I think about all the ways that like my life can just be so much more improved through alterations. And I've been going back to the gym a little more heavily. And I have these gloves that I bought in 2016. And I hand sewed them. They're really good fabric. And I think the hardest part of me finding good gloves is the fabric, because I bought these at like a vitamin store in actually Andorra. I was in the little country of Andorra and I bought them and I've loved them. And I cut this one so it fits my finger and I hand sewed it. But the stitching is finally coming apart and I don't know how to make myself another, I guess, pattern.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take it apart myself because I can't trust myself to put it back together. So this is one thing I'm going to be sending you guys.
Yeah, please do. Because ever since we met with you and you talked about gloves, that's been on my mind. And obviously without having, the fit model there, it's like, and those are the kinds of, we call them design challenges that we live for.
Good.
Like we literally live for, because that's why we do what we do, but that's why we've done what we've done as designers for myself, freaking 30 plus years and Alex half that. And it's like, that's why we wanted to become designers, was to make a difference.
Yeah.
So every time we get an opportunity to create something that actually, serves a need, that's the best.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast episode this morning. It's called Disabled and Proud. And they were interviewing one of my new virtual friends, Maya, and she has one arm. She got her arm amputated at 14, I believe. I need to remember better, but she had cancer and it completely changed her life. And fashion was such a big part of her life that she played with like the prosthesis and then having her arm in the clothing of the, like with the prosthesis. And then she finally was just like, what does it look like if I just stop wearing my prosthesis and just start cutting my sleeves off, the sleeve off of all my clothes? And it really increased her day-to-day, like quality of life went up. She felt like she could go shopping with her friends at the mall again. She felt like she could just do all these things that weren't so tied to her prosthesis and like the functionality. So like she didn't have just like a sleeve that she could pop off for her prosthesis or things like that. And so I just thought, what a perfect topic to listen to this morning, and just really solidify that it doesn't matter what your disability is. Even if you're typically shopping off the rack and don't have a disability, there's going to be some things that don't work for your body as well as you'd like it to. And so I think having this option is just such a game changer. I talked to you guys a little bit about when I worked at the custom suit shop. This was before I was even thinking about myself heavily and like needing adaptive clothes or changing them. And I had someone come in who was 7 feet tall and he'd never fit in anything nicely. You know what I mean? It never made him feel great. And so he finally got this perfect fit suit and shirt, and it changed his life. And that was when I realized, I was like, oh, it's not just me or people like me. Like, this is important for everyone. And so I just can't get behind what you guys are doing enough. And if I had a megaphone, I would.
Yeah. Well, that's where we're at. It's just a matter of getting the word out there, and having people, utilize it. We're here, we know from our experiences at events like Triumph, which is predominantly just wheelchair users. The majority of the adaptions that we showed, that we brought to the show to say, here, we can do this, this, and this, they were literally like, we've never thought of that, which for us was not what we were expecting at all. We were not expecting people to be blown away that you could have zippers put in your inseams. It's because everybody has been existing and coping and going to tailors and trying to make suggestions. But like you said, everybody in and out of the community, everybody knows what works for them and what doesn't and why. Very few of us can go out and buy ready to wear and it fit us, our own expectation of perfect. It's made on a national average, so that's not possible. It's size, disability, that those are all variables. And so to be able to, again, have it be where you're not avoiding things because they don't work for you. You'd like to wear them. Wheelchair users, we hear a lot like, oh, I don't wear jeans. Yeah, I don't wear jeans anymore. They'd like to, but because of all the aspects about them that make it difficult, they just avoid them. It's like, well, you don't have to avoid them.
Right.
You
made a really good point when I first met you guys, that you said when you went to that fashion show that you did all of those like instant adaptation, adaptive tailoring things too. I'm sorry, I can't speak today. You said it just seemed like they were so just grateful to be there. Like, people with disabilities are just glad to be involved. We're just glad to be included, that we're not going to make a fuss when we're there. So we're like, oh, great, cool, whatever, just put me in whatever. And it like, let me go down the runway. And really it should be, no, you should be treated like every other model where we come in, we tailor it just to fit you. You know what I mean? And that is bizarre that wasn't like, nope, we're doing this and you deserve this, this, and this.
Well, in my previous life, I've been a costume designer for film and television. So I'm used to dealing with celebrity talent and having those moments relative to their wardrobe where it's like, here's what I picked out for you. What do you think? Now, depending on their level of fame will dictate how much pushback will happen. Right. And that fashion show that you described in our first experience, I could see right away, it's like, technically they are the talent. here's the wardrobe that they've provided for you. What do you think? And to see so many of them, I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I know when somebody isn't psyched about what they're wearing, you know, and for us, that was kind of the takeaway, is that one, there weren't any options for them. Two, nobody within this fashion show that is for awareness of adaptive fashion, that there were considerations being made for people's individual needs. And designing is designing. It's, you know, it's not like, oh, you can only design for, you know, the masses. Designing is just that. It's like, you know, you can design a car, you can decide to have 2 doors or 4, you know, it's the same thing. And so we walked away just feeling like there has to be more options out there. Like, how is 26% of the population who have that buying power not having a say so in what they wear? And so that's where we decided, like, okay, that's what we're doing, because it's not rocket science.
Right. And especially, I was just going to say, to that point, you know that there's other options. You know just how, like, it's not simple in the grand scheme of things, but once you know how to do it, it's simple, right? Like, you can just change out those zippers or those buttons, and that makes that garment that much more usable for that person. And so anyway, why don't you guys show us some of these options if you have them ready?
You go first. They're all here.
Wait, first, Alex, can you show us, if you have it, the jacket you made for the concert last night?
Yeah, absolutely.
Alex went to Kelsey Ballerini, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And he made this jacket. Go look at his Instagram too, because she saw him in it.
Yeah, this was a super fun one. Not adaptive, but super fun.
But custom to you.
Yeah, I would say not
It's like-
adaptive.
It looks so good.
Yeah, really fun project with, like, it's those, I don't know if you could see through the camera, all, like, the rhinestones and everything, but it was a lot of fun. Really, really fun project.
I've been watching all your projects. They are all very fun.
Thank you. Try
Yeah.
and get
Makes me want to get my sewing machine out.
Everyone should have their sewing machine out. We try to make it at least once a week for us to have like playtime, free time, where we just make something for ourselves or significant other, whatever, just so that, you know, we get a reprieve, a cleanse, if you would. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, well, you got some really cool adaptations here for you. So there's just a pair of Levi's women's jeans, but for somebody with a lower limb difference, like a prosthetic or even AFOs or a leg bag, you could do is put in an invisible zipper on the inseam here. So you have access to the inside without it being obvious. And this can be done on jackets as well, you know, for people with different prosthetics, depending on where they are. Or we can even shorten things proportionately. A lot of the stuff that we do through the mail, we call objective alterations, things that we can't, we don't need you to be measured for, that we know work already. We work a lot with wheelchair users to get their shirts adapted to make them, you know, kind of like this high-low fit. It's a lot of wheelchair users who are not ambulatory. If they're not standing, the shirt is always going to be really wrinkled. It will always be wrinkled. So hemming it in the front but keeping it long in the back, it keeps the illusion that this shirt is still the same. We hem it in a certain way so that there's not like a button at the bottom, which makes it look like it was hemmed, but really keeps the illusion that the shirt has not been altered, and still gets the style across without having that like bulky seated look. Here, one of my personal favorites is this magnetic snap closure on this Kate Spade coat that we adapted. They sent this one to us a couple months ago, and so we changed out their buttons for an outerwear magnetic snap. So these are some waterproof plastic covered snaps that
they're heavy duty. They're really
really
strong.
heavy duty. just bring the coat back together like that. Super easy to button up. Make it very easy for somebody who may have some dexterity challenges to button up a jacket. Just really makes a difference.
Chelsea.
Yeah, no, you guys are gonna get my whole closet. It's fine.
That makes such a difference. We do this thing for also for button-up shirts, magnets on the shirts, and then just trying to match them up again. They super easy. Still looks the same on the outside, and that's the big goal, is that we don't change the integrity of any of the garments. They all look the same as when we get them, and for the most part, it is that way. And so, like, here is the zipper. If Lynn, if you want to do that, because I can't do.
Yeah,
do it.
but we probably should
But-
come in closer.
Yeah,
So
so
this
this-
is a magnetic zipper, so you can have existing zippers taken out of, say, your outerwear or a tracksuit or whatever. And especially for dexterity, I don't know if you can see it because but it's magnetic. So it grabs itself, and then the pull is, so there's no threading, you have to thread the little stick at the bottom of a zipper. There's no threading, it's magnetic. And then a lot of times we'll add a extended zipper pull, a cool cord or something, so that it's easier for, like with limb differences and stuff, to just
Pull it up.
hook it up.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of my personal favorites, which is something we do, it's an accessibility alteration for, generally for children. But so we take a baby's onesie like this, and literally any baby's onesie, nice ones, cheap ones, could be any one that people own, and we can add in very simply a little welt pocket there. So it's a slit for a feeding tube for babies.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of times, they're uncomfortable, so you have to go through the bottom, or you have to undress them to be able to get that feeding tube in. And a lot of times that's a temporary measure, not always, but a lot of times it's a temporary measure for babies, and it can be really challenging or more difficult to dress them. You have to go over the diaper or under, or there's all kinds of resolutions that we've seen people have to go through to do it. But it's a super popular one that we have, and it just makes life so much easier, not just for the parents, but more comfort for the baby to be able to not have that the tube against their skin. So it's a really nice little adaptation there. It's very simple, and we have that how-to on our Instagram, which outlines it really clearly.
We also talked about a similar, the top half being similar to this silhouette, and it can be a dress where the skirt is almost like an overlay, and you still have this on the bottom, so it's completely concealed. So if it's an older child that wouldn't want something like that, you wouldn't see it. It's literally like lift up the skirt, put it in.
Wow, that's so convenient. Coming from the 90s and just not having, like, a small town, I guess I should say, in the 90s with a limb difference, where there just weren't very many options, or I don't know, even like seeing things. I would never have thought of something like that. You know what I mean? It's hard for you to imagine something when you haven't seen it before. And so I think even like you guys showing us these things that aren't even necessarily for people with limb differences, like my parents don't have limb differences, but like knowing all of this stuff, they could probably give like better gifts. You know what I mean? Like we can send in some like requests for a few more gloves, and that's a great new Christmas gift, or things like that. And so I think correct me if I'm wrong, but once you guys have the measurements and things like that, you probably just keep a file of everyone. So if people wanted to call in like significant others and get a new garment for that person, would you guys be able to do that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, some alterations are a bit more invasive than others, but for the most part, yeah, we can store alteration measurements and make sure that things can be sort of kept on file, especially
Right.
things like your gloves. We just keep that pattern,
And we do have several clients here that we have that and have done custom for them. We have a client who has spina bifida and has to use crutches. And so all of the customs done stuff we've done for her not only have had a proportionately or different But like lots of pockets, there's a lot of things that we have added to what would be her normal everyday, that, you know, because she had specific things that she was like, oh, I would really love a pocket for, you know, to carry extra medical and, you know, stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, not a problem. We'll just hide that on the inside.
I'm thinking of like, well, if I want a coat like that one you just showed us, and my boyfriend's gonna go buy it, he needs to send it to you guys first, and then I can get it.
Yeah. But yes, I mean, at current state, yes. Hopefully that this time next year, you would see that on your brand of your jacket at REI or wherever, and our little red logo will be like a service option on the brand's website.
Well,
I got just a question. We're here in Utah, so obviously a lot of winter sports here and stuff. Before I retired, I had occasion a couple of times to go to a place called the National Ability Center in Park City, and they help people with mostly, I'm going to say, people who are in wheelchairs or missing a limb or something like that. But they do a lot of winter sports, skiing mostly, but all kinds of stuff on the mountains and everything. I gotta believe, that's what I was thinking. I can't believe I hadn't thought about this before. I gotta believe that a place like that would, what you do for the folks that utilize the National Ability Center, I gotta believe that would just be a gold mine for them, because I'm sure that they're buying everything off the rack and, you know, either having to make do by themselves or give it to somebody who can sew that to make the adjustments and stuff like that. Seems to me like you folks would be a godsend to folks who utilize the National Ability Center.
Yeah, we should reach out to them,
Yeah,
because
we should.
we have done for many athletes, skiers, wheelchair racing, basketball players. We have adapted athletic gear for those athletes. So that's not.
I don't, and I'm not sure. I remember the couple of times that I've been there, obviously, it's mostly, they mostly provide the equipment and everything, but they might be a good resource for everybody
Sure.
who uses their facility to know that they could go and have these adaptions made to their clothing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll reach out.
I just got a text from Maddie. She said she works with kids. The G-Tube pocket would be a game changer. Is there any way to get a pricing list for myself and my clients? So, is there a referenceable like pricing list for individual alterations, or?
You know, because every case is so different, like depending on who comes in, a lot of people bring in so many variants of things or have such a specific use for their adaptation. We don't have a price list on the website, but if that's something that you'd like, what
We could absolutely
I can
email it.
absolutely email that to you.
Yeah.
So if you want to email us, then we have your email, we'll send you right back all that information, you know, for that specific need.
So they could just send you like, hey, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking in terms of like for kids with, G-Tube mainly, I think that would be amazing just to have sort of like a little list for parents to reference if I were to refer them.
And we can go ahead and send you that and then send you the address, because we do mail in all the time. And this is a super easy one. We just tell people that, you know, mark out which side of the
Which side the tube and
that's generally the thing, but it's totally achievable, and it's very affordable alterations too. We don't think that and the goal is obviously to be working with these larger brands so that we can provide these alterations to everybody quicker, easier, without less steps involved, and in order generally, and I know this from a factory background, to attract those brands to do this, we need to be able to do it for cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, because that's what they're going to want to hear. And so yeah, we try to make it as you know.
Yeah, we are,
We-
it's not more expensive to be disabled in this shop.
We love you guys.
Mhm.
Honestly.
Yeah, could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry. So I don't have my camera on because I'm still in my jammies.
In there.
So I'm from the home sewing world, and I belong to the American Sewing Guild, and they have monthly programs, about an hour and a half. Well, they'll have somebody speak on a topic, and a lot of groups now are doing it on Zoom and inviting other chapters. So I think there would be interest in a program for home sewers about common adaptations and the techniques involved. Before you guys, and I know you're very busy and that's not at all the direction you're going. So it's just a question. But I have done a couple of things for children that my friend's OT daughter is working with. And just the sewing technique, I'm a pretty good sewer, not a fabulous expert. But just the finishing techniques, like how to finish the top of a zipper after you've taken one out and put in another one. And stuff like that, I found a little challenging. So I just think there would be a lot of interest in that, and they do pay speakers. So if that's something you'd be,
We do
actually,
speaking. Yes.
yeah, we do actually work, and we're involved with the home sewing community. Actually, we spoke with the designers who did it, and really wonderful people who just had no experience in adaptive and sort of did a little bit of research and tried to learn. And to their benefit, they hit points that were important. They did their research and developed things, but they didn't know. They didn't really have a whole lot of style because they'd put sort of this technical team on finding a solution. And yeah, it was a solution, but it wasn't a nice solution. And they were the first to admit that. And that's why they were so excited to have us on board to do that. We're also going to be, trying to be more present about making the videos that explain exactly how those adaptations that are available in the patterns really come together.
Yeah.
So we're involved.
Alterations, especially for kids who want to wear what other kids are wearing. The alteration of existing ready to wear has to be part of it, not just the specialized patterns from the get-go, although that's very important too.
Right. Well, that's our bigger area of importance is that, you know what I mean? We are a part of the sewing community, and, as a professional designer and tailor, that's our tribe too. And we're totally open to speaking and doing instruction. You talk about the zipper, at the top. Alex just walked me through the manufacturer's version of that last week. So that's not, we have no problem.
I used to spend, like hours in the evening just tearing apart zippers to put on jackets. In the factories, zippers aren't pre-done. They come on a large roll, and we shorten them individually. You make every single zipper like by hand, so it's a little different than like going to the store. So this is a big part of we use like these special pliers, and we can kind of manipulate them.
That's awesome.
And I'm a part of the American Sewing Guild. I actually was asked to speak, but it was right before COVID and everything just sort of fell out. So I haven't had the opportunity to.
Well, I will cut out that DL part before I to the YouTube. So if you get exclusive details.
Yes, we will share. We're excited because not only are the designs adaptive and speak to a large variety of disabilities, but they're fashionable. They're so fashionable that we predict that the able-bodied crew are gonna buy them and make them for themselves because they're good.
About that, yeah. Everyone's using Siri and Alexa, so
Exactly.
Things that are made for people with disabilities do make everyone's life easier. So,
Yes.
Totally.
well, does anyone have any other questions? Just keep the floor open. Looks like Matthew had to dip. But yeah. Any other questions? Just want to make sure everyone gets them in before.
And if you think of anything, you can always email us or message us on our Instagram, and we're very communicative there. So
Yeah.
Yeah. And remind everyone what that is, just so
that's
we
at Sewn Adaptive on Instagram, and then Sewn Adaptive at Gmail emails.
Yep. And that's Sewn, SEWN.
adaptive. We're gonna start. That's gonna be my new goal the next couple of weeks. Help people understand what adaptive means.
Yeah. You just pose that question, you know, in your Starbucks. Do you know what adaptive means? I guarantee you there will be many that will be like, what?
When really we should all know it because everyone's adapting to everything all day, every day.
Exactly.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is that we all adapt to things. You know, everybody does to some degree. You know, you have to make changes that suit you, and nobody fits perfectly in the world exactly as they are. Some of those have to do with clothing or specific disability, but I mean, they really do apply to everything the more you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just saw where Delta finally got their first wheelchair accessible like seat.
I saw that too.
So
I mean, isn't it like wild, like just now?
but I think that just goes to say that people with disabilities are not the people who are loud about the inconveniences.
Mhm.
They just are.
Mhm.
Those people were probably just glad to be going on a trip or something, or traveling. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
People finally spoke up enough that they were like, this sucks. We don't want to do this anymore. Help us out. And they listened. I think we do need to give brands a little bit more like benefit of the doubt. They might just not know that they're doing
No.
things.
Right, and that's exactly
And that
it.
and that is it.
It's the way that these people who are speaking up are communicating that makes it successful or unsuccessful, is what we're finding. You know, it's when approaching brands, if that's something that anybody's doing, it's like approaching it with a certain level of kindness always seems to go farther than being like, hey, you guys are
Like shaming somebody
yeah.
into submission.
It may get you something in the short run,
Right.
but nobody's going to concede to you anymore. And we see that with a lot of the different people that we work with, who are like, their instant jump is to shame brands. And it's like, okay, I mean, we run a business, I ran a factory. If people were shaming the way I ran my factory with anything to do with not even disability related, it's like, okay, I already don't like you, you know. And that's kind of the way that I was operating. So, and I know that from anybody who has to go through the struggle of trying to run any sort of an operation. And so approaching brands in this sort of like I'm going to shame you, I'm going to call you out way, putting them on blast in this negative way, really, it doesn't get people that far. I think people think you have to, and it's really not. It's more of approaching things with this kindness, or, you know, instead of being like, hey, your jeans aren't adaptive, it's saying, I would really like it if your jeans were adaptive, because then I could wear them too. It's the same message, approach with kindness. And then now everybody's on your side, and you didn't create a tense situation. Of course, everybody's different, and everybody takes communication a little bit differently. But that's what we find to be the most successful in people who have spoken up, is just approaching it with a level of kindness.
And we're excited to be able to work with brands, because that's we're inviting them to be in the adaptive space, right? And so we're inviting them to add 26% of the population to their customer base. We'll handle all the tricky stuff, but just by nature of them saying, yes, we will provide this service, you know, they've listened, they've acknowledged, you know, and that'll have opportunity with their marketing and branding to also bring more people from the community into that space. And, you know, it's like, the more they do that, the more inclusive it all is, the more, you know, it's like, the more that we're all the same, you know, it's not about differences. It's like, we're all the same.
And we all need more options.
Right. And we're excited about it, because we know that at the point that brands are down and we are a part of their platforms, you know, we know the people in the community are going to talk about it. You know what I mean? It's like,
Ew.
yeah, right. And it's like, hey, I mean, that's how this works, right? You know, and so, yeah, we're excited. We're excited. And, you know, we hope that once that aspect of the business is in full swing, that, that we can, you know, help all of you do things for you and that you can tell everybody about it.
I can't shut up about it. I just can't. So thank you guys for being so willing to take the time to come and speak to us at these meetups. And
Do that.
No, thank you for organizing it and promoting it. That was so kind of you.
yeah, I mean, seriously, I'd do this every single day. I really would. I think I'm in that part of even like my own businesses. So if you guys are following, you'll understand what's going on a little bit. I'm in that just like being consistent phase. I feel like a lot of what I'm doing is at the very beginning. And if I just stay consistent like you guys, you know, more and more people will hear about us, more and more people will value it because it's so consistent, you know, there's that trust there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just so happy, and you guys have lit such a fire under me since I met you, and
Good kid.
I can't appreciate it enough. So
Good.
well, and thank you everyone for coming out. Let's see if we can see everyone.
Nice to meet all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for letting us share.
Yeah, thanks so much. Really fascinating and valuable.
And Eduardo, Elena's dad. Nice to finally see you.
Hi. Mama couldn't make it today, so I joined in.
She's got a hi. I was gonna say, is she with Elena? Hi, Elena.
She's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone. This was
Right.
recorded. I'll just go in and edit a little bit, and then
Yes,
it's on the
please.
YouTube. And yeah, we'll see you guys at another meetup, hopefully.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Bye.
Jackie.
All right.
Yeah,
Good
thank
luck.
you.
Bye.